Hello, fellow muddlers, Bruce here. Well, you're going to be joining me for another scratch build. In particular, a scratch build of a horizontal water tank sitting on the top of a couple of wooden vents. So let's see, just so you can get an idea of what it would look like. All I'm going to get out of today's shakiness is showing you one side, I guess. So picture a second vent under that. The water tank itself is some 15 feet long with a 8-foot diameter. And in a previous video, which I will mention now and put a link into the description, the previous video was scratch building wooden water or oil tanks. I gave you the mathematics on how to figure out how many gallons something like this would hold, measuring it in feet. So it would hold about 5,600 gallons of water. So it's going to be on top of these vents, as I said. And I have all the parts here that I pretty much need. Now the vents were a gift from a fellow modeler named Cody. And when I first went into HON3 and was talking about it on the old railroad line forums, Cody sent me some of his HON30 and HON3 rolling stock, and he had put some vents, a total of 6 vents actually, of which these are 2. And so I'm not going to be building the vents, I'm going to use Cody's. And they look pretty darn good for this application. He even has some nut bolt washer castings on them. So what I'm going to need to do is put some diagonal bracing between the 2 vents. And for that, I am going to use this fractional lumber. This is 1/16 by 3/32, which scales in HO to about a little over 5 inches to a little over 8 inches. So let's just call it a 5 by 8. There will be 2 that go straight across the top of the vents and will kind of cradle the tank, keep it from rolling from side to side. And there will be 1 going diagonally down from the top of this vent to the bottom of the other, and a corresponding one going from the top of the other vent to the bottom of this one. So that is the lumber for the bracing, and again about 5 by 8s. So I'll scribe some grain into it using a razor saw, as you've seen me do before, and then cut them to approximate length, a little oversized, and stain them and get ready for the build there. The covering the cardboard tube with wood, and again that previous video that I'm putting the link in shows you how I do it. I already have a guideline marked on there, and I did that the way I showed in the previous video, which is basically putting the tube on to a square and then drawing a line up along the square to give me a guideline. I will be using 1 by 10s for the wood on the outside of the tank, and I determined by looking at the circumference in inches of that, and these are 10-inch boards, and knowing the total diameter in inches, or excuse me, circumference in inches, which was some 301 inches, I knew that I was going to need 30 of these 10-inch boards, and I can get 5 out of a strip. So here's the wood for that. I am going to fill in the ends with this cardstock, and I've already drawn the circles of the proper size there. Those just have to be cut out. I have a steadier hand day. I think you can see them. Yeah, you can. Here and here. I will cut them out with a curved scissors glue them onto the ends, tidy everything up with a sanding stick, and then I can start gluing this wood on. So I have the wood here, got the bents here, got my core, and the only other thing that you would really need are two things, I guess. One is some kind of banding around the outside of the wooden tank. I have my elastic bead cord here. Where am I in the picture? There I am. You can see that. So that's what I usually use for the banding. And if I don't use that, if instead of using tubular banding like that, if I want to use bands of metal, I can just do that out of paper, cut it probably a little narrower than this, and put my bands around like that. All right, so yeah. And the only other thing besides that is some piping, which is water piping that I will use probably a heavier gauge wire to do, and that'll be it. So I'll come back when I have the wood stained and cut to length and doing some of the work in constructing this. Talk to you then. Okay, time for an update here on the water tank build. I have covered the cardboard tube with the 1x10 strip wood, and I've trimmed off one end of it, and the other end I have not. I'll just show you again. I know I've done this before, but how I go about gluing the wood to the ends of these tanks. The other thing is, as you can see as I turn it around, you have some of the strips that are much lighter than others. And as I've told you before, one of the ways of evening up that coloring is with a Prismacolor marker in the cool gray line. And in particular, this is the 30% level. The 40 gets pretty dark already, 50 is very dark, almost black. But the 30 works well in blending the strip wood. Like here's a strip that's lighter than the others. And if I just go down that with my Prismacolor marker, you can see that it darkens up and starts to blend in quite well with the other wood around it. So I'll go over all the lighter wood with this Prismacolor, and then on the edges here where I have sanded and cut, I will run my Prismacolor marker to get rid of any raw ends, and once again to also blend some colors in. Only takes a few seconds. These Prismacolor markers are actually quite handy, and they're getting a little harder for me to find in local stores. It used to be that Michael's would have a good selection of them, but of late that has not been the case. So anyway, that's that. Now, in terms of trimming off the edges, I just take a sharp number 11 blade, and I start by coming around and just hugging the side of the tank. And again, several lighter strokes are better than trying to do it all in one. There. I'm almost ready. There you go. And that's it. You just go all the way around, cutting those off. And then, I'll just show you here in a minute when I get one or two more cut off. All right, so here's a section that's cut off. You just take your sanding stick and lightly go over them to make them blend in. And make them a little rounder if they're a little out of round. Just lightly. You don't want to do anything drastic. And you start to see a pretty good curve. And then you tidy those up with your Prismacolor marker. So the tank is almost done, except for the accessories, which would be an inflow pipe, an outflow hose, and a vent pipe on the top. Cody's vents are here, so they're ready. And here is a ladder that I have made from my ladder jig. And if you look at about the height that this would be with the tank on top of the vents, you can see that this ladder is long enough to get to the top of the tank. So the major components are coming together. So some bracing yet when the vents get put underneath the tank. The inflow, outflow, and vent that I talked about, and this job will be done. Talk to you again soon. Just another quick update with things kind of just laying in place there. Do you get the idea? The stand is put together. Central pipe, filler pipe coming up and into the tank. A vent at the top. And a hose coming down this side. Ladder, appropriate size. Everything is just sitting there. What I need to do now is just put the bands on. I think 4 bands will be fine. And glue everything together. And it'll be another scratch build done. So yeah, there you are. Come back in a little while with the finished product. Talk to you then. Okay, really quick update. Again, just sitting on top, so I don't want to touch it, but 1 band here, 1 band there. I'll put 2 more bands. Those are strictly made out of paper. Let's see here. You can see that I've colored with a Prismacolor marker to look like metal. And I'll finish that up and you'll see the final product. Talk to you soon. Okay, folks, this quick scratch build is finished. What started out as a cardboard tube is now a raised water tank using Cody's vents. Vent on the top, got the bands on, got a spout coming out. I have as you can probably see down here, a hook for putting on a hose. I'm not going to use this clunky wire. I have some thin solder that I use for hoses. I did a quick look and couldn't find it, but I will find it and put that on. The ladder I am not going to permanently attach until I have this in a scenery position, but as I showed you, it's the correct height for accessing the top of the tank. Could do it on the end, could do it on the side. So yeah, or I could position it in the final scene, this leaning against the vents on the bottom. So yep, all done, and shows you what you can do with just some sticks and an idea that you have in your mind. So alrighty, as always, if you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you've not already done so, please subscribe to my channel. Talk to you again soon.